to the Rink court and beyond. As you know, today's program is part of our virtual alumni weekend for Ferry Hall alumni and Lake Forest Academy alumni. My name is Rob Bucklow, and I have the honor of serving as the Vice President of Advancement for Lake Forest Academy. And today I have the wonderful opportunity of moderating our session with Eric Stisser of the St. Louis Blues and Darren Madeley from Lake Forest Academy. Eric and Darren have been on the front line of the shutdown of sports and the restart of sports, and the many challenges of navigating the shutdown and the restart during COVID-19. Our program will last 1 hour. Eric and Darren will actually offer some remarks on the front end of things, and then we'll open things up for questions. But I can encourage you right now, if you have some questions that you want to get in queue, the chat box is open for you to submit questions, so feel free to use that at any time. Now for some introductions of our two panelists. First, Eric Stisser, class of 1990, who serves as Vice President of Corporate Partnerships for the 2019 Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues. And he also is responsible for work with the city's indoor sports venue, the Enterprise Center. So first, Eric, I want to congratulate you on the 30th anniversary of your reunion from Lake Forest Academy. So thank you for spending time with us today, and we appreciate you being a part of this session. So Eric has served in the front office of the St. Louis Blues for 14 years. In his role, he manages and develops business relationships and generates revenue through corporate partnerships, advertising sales, signage, media, community relations, promotions, and other sales. In addition to his Stanley Cup championship ring, Eric is the owner of a Super Bowl ring from his time with the 2000 Super Bowl champion NFL St. Louis Rams. Might you have a ring with you, Eric?
To be candid, I did not, and you asked me to go get it. So I actually brought them both, yes.
Can we see them?
Sure. So I'll show you the first one, and it's funny. It's from 20 years ago because the Rams won the Super Bowl in '99. We got the rings in 2000. And it just goes to show you how big and gaudy these things have gotten over the years. But the Rams ring, you know, it's a pretty good size ring. It says Rams on it. It's got 162 diamonds. And if you wear it, it's pretty big. As my wife says, I look like Vic Vegas. But so then 20 years later, the Blues win, and it's literally about twice the size, has almost 300 diamonds. It's got the last name on one side. These are certainly things you don't wear around. You put them, I mean, they come in a very nice box. And I'm always quick to point out I didn't score a touchdown or a goal. You know, I'm fortunate to work on the business side and help manage the club, but you know, was really lucky and fortunate to be a part of two really good organizations.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I would be remiss if I did not mention that you're a graduate of DePauw University, the alma mater of LFA's board chair, John Marlatt, who's with us today. So glad to have the DePauw connection going on in this room. And Eric served at LFA as Assistant Director of Admission and Development from 1994 to 1996. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't mention all the athletic activity that Eric did as a student at LFA. He was quarterback and captain of the football team, led that team to a 10-1 season, was all conference. Eric was also captain of the LFA basketball team and a 1,000-point career scorer. Next, I want to introduce Darren Madeley. It's my honor to serve on the administration at Lake Forest Academy alongside Darren, who is our athletic director and prep hockey coach. Darren is a highly accomplished athlete himself, but I can tell you from watching Darren over the past 3 years that he is a student-first athletic director. He is one of the most kind and compassionate leaders that I've worked alongside. And if you have a child, you would want Darren as your coach or your athletic director. Darren is a former NHL player and NCAA Division I two-time first-team All-American. Darren was goaltender for the Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks of the NHL. He also played in Europe in the Finnish Elite League and the German Elite League, as well as in the United States in the International Hockey League, East Coast Hockey League, and the American Hockey League. Darren came to Lake Forest Academy in 2005 after coaching the USA Hockey National Team Development Program. A native of Canada, Darren holds a bachelor's degree in physical and health education from Lake Superior State University and a teaching certificate from Saginaw Valley State University, where he graduated cum laude. Darren was elected to the Lake Superior State University Athletic Hall of Fame in 2018. Darren lives on campus with his wife, Jen. He and Jen are the parents of two LFA graduates, Jenna, class of 2011, and Tyler, class of 2014. So let's begin, Eric, with you offering some of your opening remarks, and then we'll move over to Darren, and then we will open things up for questions. So take it away, Eric.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thanks for inviting me to participate. Obviously, it's hard to believe that it's been 30 years since I graduated. I see that Zaid is on the call. I can't actually see you yet, Zaid, but Zaid was a good friend and classmate, made my job as a quarterback and point guard very easy. Zaid was a great tailback and a great forward in basketball. So also great to see Bill Dolby and Sue as well. They were my first dorm parents at Bates my sophomore and junior year. I think Bill had to probably pry me off that payphone a few times when I was always talking to my girlfriend after study hall. And then I moved into Warner for my senior year, but Bill was also my advisor and one of my favorite teachers with U.S. history. But it's just funny how life goes quickly and it comes full circle. So here I am 30 years later talking about what I'm doing now to my LFA associates, and it's great to be here. So I appreciate that. As far as today goes, I know we're supposed to talk about just the pandemic and the pause, and I'm certainly no expert by any stretch, but I will talk a little bit about what it was like for our business in the NHL and really kind of how it came to a screeching halt. So in mid-March, we were in first place in our division and first place in the Western Conference. And, you know, mind you, we had won the cup the previous year, and Darren knows this, there's so much that goes with winning the cup that you're really not prepared for. When I was back in 1999, 2000, when we won the Super Bowl with the Rams, it was 3 games in 3 weeks and you were done. We played on a Sunday, and a Sunday, and you won the Super Bowl. We had the parade in early February, and that was it. Hockey is very different. We played 26 games over 8 weeks. I didn't play 1 second of ice time, but I was exhausted. I mean, entertaining, travel, tickets. I mean, it was a lot of ups and downs with the wins and losses. And it was great to see the city kind of go on this 8-week ride with us. You guys have experienced it in Chicago, obviously, with the Hawks titles. You know how it can captivate a city, even the Cubs. But everyone would ask me to compare and contrast the Rams title to the Blues title. Just very, very different. The Rams had only been in St. Louis for 5 years, and so it was really kind of a new team. We had moved from LA. The Blues had been around for 52 years and had never won the Cup. The Blues had been to the Cup the first 3 years after expansion in '67. You may recall the 6 expansion teams played the original 6, and the Blues went on to get swept all 3 times. But this was a marathon versus a sprint. The Rams Super Bowl title was a sprint, 3 weeks. This was a marathon. And so you get into the summer with the Cup, and there's a ton of Cup parties. There's the parade. There's this massive Cup tour. And the parties and the celebrations don't stop for 3 to 4 months. And it's really quite remarkable to watch people around the community, CEOs from companies to longtime fans, literally cry holding this cup and getting a picture with it. And it really takes on a life of its own. I tell you that background because the summer is really when you're out preparing for next season. You're renewing business, you're selling new business, you're setting budgets. And that was a blink for us. And all of a sudden, like opening night is in October, and we just felt really behind the 8 ball. We felt a bit unprepared on the business side. I'm sure the players were tired, but the point of my story is you get into the season, we get back at it. We had the ring ceremony, we raised the banner, and in mid-March, we're back in first place. It took a while to get there. It took a while for our guys to kind of get their legs back and really get back at it, because, the playoff run takes a lot out of the players. So it's mid-March. We had just gone to New York. We had played the Rangers and the Devils, and I happened to be on that trip. I don't travel every trip, obviously. There's too many, but we do take clients on the team plane probably 8 to 10 times a year. So we're in New York early to mid-March, and, certainly you'd heard of Corona, but not really. So we were in New York for 3-4 nights, and we did what you do in New York. We went out to dinner, we went to bars, and, went to Madison Square Garden, went to the Prudential Center. And then all of a sudden, I want to say it was around March 14th, 15th, you may recall the NBA did it first. Rudy Gobert tested positive with the Utah Jazz, so they suspend their season. The next day, we suspend ours. And, the NCAA suspended the NCAA tournament for basketball. Actually, they canceled it. So we really didn't know what was going on. So I would tell you, like most businesses, at first you're trying to get your arms around how real is this? How long will this go? So we immediately had to determine how many total games are we going to miss here, and what's that revenue impact to us? So we had 6 home games left and 5 road games. So we played about 86% of our season, which was pretty good considering. So we'd already captured the majority of our revenue and tickets and sponsorships and suites and food and beverage and merchandise and broadcast. But we quickly looked at, what was left and what does that number look like across the board. So we did that for the first few weeks. We got on Zoom. I mean, obviously not. I mean, we'd heard of Zoom for sure, but we're getting on these Zoom calls. No one knows if you're on mute or not, how to speak, but everyone got good at that quickly. And, Commissioner Bettman was really pretty bullish about wanting to finish the season, but we didn't know when. And mind you, it's late March, early April, and people are talking about June and July, and you're kind of laughing like, June and July, what do you mean? That's 3 months away. So the first 2 months was a lot of hurry up and wait. You would do some budgets. You'd think about, hey, we might return to play. We might finish the regular season. We might not. So it was a lot of really speculation and candidly, a lot of guesstimating on with fans, without fans. Can you capture some of this lost revenue? And then finally, I would say probably by mid-June, early July, we got a little bit of clarity. And I would tell you that the postponement of the Olympics really helped us. So we're the NHL, our TV partner nationally is NBC. And you probably know NBC carries the Olympics. So the fact that the Tokyo Olympics, I believe it was Tokyo, the fact that got pushed out a year opened up all those NBC sports windows for, really July, August, September. So now NBC is hungry for some programming. And the fact that opened up really helped us. And, and then you were hearing all these rumblings of host cities. St. Louis was in the mix. Chicago was in the mix. There were probably 10 to 12 cities in the mix. And for the longest time, Vegas was really the one rumored market. So Vegas in the West and then Toronto in the East. But Vegas had a late spike in July. So we went to Edmonton and Toronto. And Darren, there's something about you Canadians. You guys follow rules. You do things right. And really the cases in Edmonton and Toronto were really low. So we get the return to play format. We figure out we're going to go to Edmonton. The NHL was really, really aggressive with who can go and who can't. Each club could only take 50 people. And in essence, that's your players, your coaches, your team docs, your trainers, some media personnel, and that is it. So really anyone on the business side didn't really have a need to go to Edmonton because all you're doing is going from the hotel to the rink. And so what we quickly did with the league is we determined what kind of assets can we utilize in Edmonton. So when you guys watch a hockey game, you realize there's dasher board advertising. All the advertising around the rink is called dasher boards. And those are really just slicks. Those are basically big stickers. And so if you were designated the home team, you got half of those boards. And then you also could do some virtual signage on the glass on your home television market. So you had some opportunities to capture some sponsorship dollars, even though it was not a true home game in St. Louis. When we were designated the home team in Edmonton, we could capture some quote, make good value. So what we did the month prior to return to play is we went out to our 100 corporate partners, our sponsors, if you will, and we were really successful with about 90% of them. And these are round numbers. So let's say a company, let's say Southwest Airlines is a $300,000 sponsor, and we played 85, 86% of our season. So we had some missed revenue, call it 40, 50 grand. I would go to them and say, this is what we want to do to make up for that lost revenue. And we would kind of negotiate it out. And the majority of partners were very flexible. There were some small to mid-sized businesses that just said, listen, I need my refund check. I don't want to make good, or I'll take the refund next season. So we did all those. We had to do 100 of those in about 10 days. It was a very quick turnaround once we got the official approval from the league, because we controlled our local television rights and we controlled radio. And as I said, we had some signage with the dasher boards and virtual signs. So, and then we also had a lot of social digital stuff we could do locally on our website and social channels. But really, you got back into that, and there was really an excitement level of our fan base. Just people were really hungry for sports. I mean, you guys remember we all binge watched a number of shows, and you kind of run out of that, and now you just really want to watch some competition. So we really didn't know what to expect, but ratings went through the roof, and so that was great. It was really weird, and it's still weird to watch these games with no fans. And we've heard these stories from our hockey operations folks and our players. Just, being in the bubble was strange for them. The Blues stayed at the JW Marriott right across the street from Edmonton. Nice first-class hotel, but really they had to go to the hotel and walk to the rink. And it was like a fenced-in corridor. They actually kind of called it a prison yard. And they literally, that's all they did was go from the rink to the hotel, the rink to the hotel. There was a team suite where they could play ping pong and they could play pool. And there was one little outdoor courtyard where they could hang out, but there's only 4 restaurants in the hotel. And after a while, it was just Groundhog Day. They got really, really tired of it. And I think some teams did really well with it. Some didn't. We were in first place in March, and we did not perform well in the bubble. It was underwhelming. We lost to Vancouver in 6 games in the first round, and certainly did not live up to our expectations. And really not going deeper hurt us. Not going into the second, third round, we were not able to capture all of our make good miss revenue. So this was a big loser for us financially this season. Mind you, we did very well the previous season when we won the cup, but it just gives you a little bit of a glimpse on what that's like playing remotely and not going deep. It hurt us not going deep. So, the team came back home, I want to say mid to late August. And so now here we are. I should also tell you the office closed August 1. So we started working remotely, April 1st. And that's when we all started doing Zooms. We're still technically closed, but I do go in 1-2 days a week just to get away and have some quiet time. And there's maybe 10 people in the office. And we still don't know what next season looks like. So what we're hearing from Gary Bettman is probably a January 1 start. The NHL is really bullish on wanting to play a full 82-game schedule. And we've had to build 3 different budgets, one with 0 fans, 25% fans, and 50% fans. And that's across the board with tickets, with food and beverage, with merchandise, with broadcast, with suites, with sponsorship. So there's a lot of moving factors there. And I think that we're hopeful that once the election ends, maybe cities and states start to open up a little bit more. And we're hopeful that maybe in January we can have 25% fans and just maybe capture some of that revenue. But we still don't know. And so as we're working with partners with renewals and even people under contract, we still don't know what assets we can deliver on and which ones we can't. So it's just really one-on-one conversations trying to figure out what next season is going to look like. But most people are being really, really flexible, and that's been great for us. I'll save some of the other stuff for Q&A, Robert. I know there's some other questions you have for me as far as what we did to stay relevant during the pause with our fan base and the community. But that's kind of a quick overview from the business side on what it was like for the Blues. So I'm happy to do some Q&A now, or if Robert, you want to do that later, that's fine.
Yeah, why don't we do it at the end? Give Darren a chance to kind of offer a bit of an overview of the stoppage of play at Lake Forest Academy, and then the restarting of things at LFA. And it's been a very interesting moment for him as well. And then we'll take some questions at the end. So Darren, take it away.
All right, thanks, Rob. Yeah, Eric, I was talking to friends and former players that were in the bubble, and the hardest thing for them was actually not having their family. And I think the mental stress that they've been going through just with that has been something as fans you just don't appreciate. That, a couple of them have had babies during this time, and they haven't been able to get outside to even see their children. So Bonesaw, it's good to see you on here. Haven't seen you in a long time. And Allie, I just saw you a couple weeks ago, so it was good. So yeah, it's been interesting. When this all started to go down, Bill and I were coaching softball in preseason, and I don't even think at that time we knew where we were going. The last practice, we both just looked at each other and said, you know what, we'll just let them have a nice scrimmage and see how we're going to go. And it was probably the best day of the year that we had. The kids just had a blast. And then when I started talking to other coaches, I think they did the same thing that day, just to let the kids relax. But for me personally, it was devastating. When all of a sudden everything you're planning for, and you know that these kids have been locked inside because of the cold weather all winter, and the spring is so much fun at this school, to know that everything was leading up to an amazing spring, and then all of a sudden you're stopped, and it came to an abrupt halt. I stayed back with Adam Gerber, and we still had about 34 students that couldn't get out and couldn't fly back home. So we spent 2-3 weeks running to their favorite restaurants to get them dinner and lunch. And then, you look at the positives of that too. I was able to spend a lot of time with some students from China and Taiwan and South Korea, and it was just amazing to be able to sit down and have lunch and dinner and talk about things other than the normal things that you're going through each day. And it was interesting to find out that the hardest thing about LFA is food, because they were when they come over, and I shared the same experience, because when I went to Finland to play, first thing I found was McDonald's, just so I knew I had something nice to eat for myself. And McDonald's had amazing donuts, which was even better. But it was a great experience there. And then all of a sudden, spring break ends. We close this school. Nobody's coming in, and fortunately, with the Illinois Department of Health, they were amazing to work with, and they kept kind of helping me on what I needed to do and what I needed to do right. And so I never closed the building. We were able to keep the athletic end of it open to any family that lived on campus. But the amount of times I've taken temperatures since last March has been amazing. I'm absolutely amazing at it now. At the time, people were having 94-degree temperatures. I was like, we're in trouble. But as we worked through it, we figured out step by step on what needed to be done. And so during the spring, we put together a team builder app which we connected all 428 students to, and tried to keep them from spending 10, 12 hours a day staring at a computer screen. The biggest thing that I saw during the spring, and it's amazing living with probably one of the best guidance counselor, social workers in the state, is my wife was very helpful in things I needed to do and things to help the kids kind of get out there. So together we built another page for the website, which gave the kids things to do while they were socially gone. They weren't able to see their friends. They were really locked up in their rooms. And I don't think they realized until after the first week that that vacation is gone. And I really miss that physical contact that you have at a school like this. And so we spent kind of the rest of May, April and May, just anything we could do. We threw out every option possible to get them walking around their house, getting them to go out in their driveway and shoot a basketball, just anything to get physically air, oxygen circulating through their body again. And a lot of kids did it. And then others just kind of told me, you know what, I don't really want to do that. Is there something else we could do? And so we sent out an email to some people in the community. Michelle Vaca came up huge and was doing Zumba classes live, and kids were jumping into those. And then Carolyn Gorowski was doing yoga classes for the kids as well. And so it really showed that these kids wanted to get moving again. The summer hit, and it's usually the craziest time on this campus because of all the summer camps we have. A lot of them were canceled right away. I fought and fought and fought to try and maintain the hockey camp, which Dr. Vernon was outstanding and gave us all the different tools we could use. So we were able to run all 4 weeks of camp. We had 460 kids from the age of 6 to 12 on campus over those 4 weeks. And I think what hockey camp did was kind of help the school feel a little bit better about bringing the students back, that this can be done. So this is how we're going to do the cafeteria now. It's not going to be the same, but guess what? We're coming back. This is how we can do a classroom. Again, not the same, but we're going to get them back. And then athletically, you know, the masks are not fun to wear. They're not enjoyable to wear while you're exercising, but again, it's better than sitting in your room and you've got that contact. Right now, I have 12 kids in the gym behind me. I have probably 14 upstairs in the weight room. The hockey rink has practices going on right now. We have a huge lacrosse camp going on outside. And I think that was in part to things that Pam Dye and I were able to put together over the summer to kind of feel better about it. The one thing that isn't happening that I really miss is outside of my office used to be a huge place for kids to just unwind and relax and talk and hang out and laugh. And right now it's a classroom. So I get to listen to Paul Makovic's classes, which I am absolutely inept in math. And I feel even worse about myself after watching his classes. And then we've got discrete math, which I feel a little better about myself after in that one. But we've been able to be flexible and know that different things are going to happen. The dance room is now Joe Ward's for his AP stats class. And you just kind of do what you've got to do. When the students came back, preseason went pretty much the same as it always does. With the governor changing some things around, we still wanted to do 20 contact days for the teams that have flipped. And right now we're the only state that girls volleyball, boys soccer, and girls field hockey, and then football are not playing. They moved them till February 15th. So that threw a big wrench in it for sure. I don't know how you play field hockey in the snow. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how you play soccer in the snow. I don't want to, but it'll be a challenge. But I think what the IHSA did was allow these kids the guidance to come back, and also gave the families a little bit more comfort of, okay, we can do this. We're going to do this together. We got to do it right. And I would say the first couple of weeks, we were a little bit, I don't want to say too strict, but just putting it into place, saying, you got to do this. You got to do it this way. I know it's not great. And the kids at LFA are amazing. They've always been. There's no complaining. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're having a blast doing it. Our swim team went to Libertyville and knocked them off the other day. Our cross country, we've hosted cross country races here, and I'm very fortunate to have the most organized gentleman in the world in Chris Dossois. Chris has been amazing when it comes to, well, he's always been amazing to work with, but with the way everything had to be done and being back in the ISL, all the ISL schools, every Friday call talk about how great it is to come to LFA, how well run it is, how just the great job Chris and Ed Shaughnessy do on every race. So right now we're trying to figure out what to do in between the two seasons. And I think we've got that in place. The first season of fall ends in 2 weeks now. And then we've got a month before the winter season begins. And so we are going to do a 10 contact day for the summer programs, which is baseball, softball, both lacrosse is track, girls soccer, boys volleyball, and boys tennis. So they can get a little work in, because their season doesn't start till May 3rd now. And then the last 2 weeks before the winter season, we're going to do a hiking club, trying to get a permit to do a fishing club. We'll see how that goes down. And then a flag football intramural tournament, and then also a dodgeball in November outside intramural tournament. So again, it's been interesting. It's been a challenge, but having the kids back, you really realize what they bring to this place. They are the life of this school. And when they left, it did not feel right. It felt cold. It just felt mechanical for me. I would get up, I'd walk to the office, and then I'd leave. And so now to have them back, and 4 of them are standing at the window right now making faces. So it's amazing to have them back. So I'm excited. I think we're doing a great job here. I think Jose and Tenny have really set the tone nicely, and I'm looking forward to basketball and ice hockey kicking in, and boys swimming.
Darren, we also want to thank you for all that you've done, over the months when there was no competition going on at all, to keep people active and healthy. So thank you. That it provides really a good transition for me to go back to Eric and ask about, how did the St. Louis Blues, kind of remain relevant during a time frame when there was no hockey being played? How did you keep your fans engaged? How did you keep your corporate sponsors engaged? What were some of the keys to keeping that fire for hockey alive in St. Louis?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say we didn't do much for the first 30 days, and then we realized you certainly wanted to respect the pause and the virus and the severity of it, but you also wanted to do some things that, you know, allowed people to celebrate or be proud of and things like that. So I would tell you the first thing we did is we've got a really unique relationship with the baseball Cardinals here. I mean, I'm sure the Cubs and the Bears get along okay, but we do a lot with the Cardinals. We do joint promotions with them. And it's probably more just the city of St. Louis, you know, we're a mid-sized market, 3.5 million people, and we're a pretty tight-knit community. But we've always had this great rapport with the Cardinals to the point where we actually have an interlocking logo, and it's just called One Nation. And we do a lot for each other's charities and things like that. I tell you that because we partnered with the Cardinals, I'm going to say late April, early May, and we have similar corporate partners. We have the similar official team docs, hospital partner. But we did a series of parades called Hometown Heroes where we went out. It was each Wednesday, I want to say for 4 straight weeks. We took some players, we took some executives, and we took our mascot Louie and the Cardinals mascot Fredbird. And we partnered with Ford. So we had these Ford trucks, and we also partnered with Papa John's. And we would drive around to hospitals, and we would drive around to grocery stores and other sort of frontline workers, if you will. And we would celebrate them in the evenings, and we would hand out pizzas, and you know, the media would pick it up, and we would just thank these folks for all their time and efforts. We would typically do it at the hospitals during a shift change and feed them. And so that was a really nice, soft way to sort of do something in the community that was relevant, that was, you know, had a lot of goodwill to it. The other thing we did shortly thereafter, you know, just piggybacking on the fact that a lot of people were at home and binge watching various content, our in-house production team had so much raw footage from winning the Cup. So we compiled a 4-part series on YouTube, and we unveiled a 4-part series called Director's Cut. And I would say early to mid-May, and we did it every Sunday at 6 p.m. We would tease it all week, and then we would release it on Sunday at 6, and we would attach a corporate partner to it. And there were 4 episodes. And episode 1 was, it was called The First 24 Hours, which was when we won the Cup in Boston. And I was in Boston for that night. My wife was with me. So it was really footage from on the ice, back in the locker room, back at the team hotel. We flew back to St. Louis that night at 3 a.m. We land, we all go down to our arena. I don't know why, because we were celebrating. And then we hung out till 7, 8 a.m. with the Cup. And then the next day, the players kind of moved the Cup around town to various bars and restaurants. And so really, this was like really great raw footage. So that was part 1, was the first 24 hours. Part 2, 3 days later, was our parade. And you guys have seen the parades with the Hawks and the Bulls and the Cubs. And, you know, ours was no different, you know, over 1 million people downtown. So that was amazing. And my family and I got to be in the parade. We rode in a pickup truck with David Perron and his family. So really, part 2 was this great raw footage just from the parade, behind the scenes stuff. Part 3, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, part 3 was unbelievable because for those of you that don't know, you win in mid-June, and you really have the Cup for about 2 weeks, and it's just kind of around town. And then July 1, it leaves, and trust me, you're glad it leaves. Your liver needs it to leave, and your body needs it to leave, because it's been a really wild 2 weeks. And it literally travels the world for 60 days. And when I say the world, it's the world. Darren can attest to this. So, you know, Tarasenko is from Russia, lots of guys from Canada, Sweden, Finland, Switzerland, you name it. And all these guys get it for, you know, 12 to 16 hours at a time. And one of the things you get to know, so the National Hockey League has 3 guys that are called cup handlers. And Phil Pritchard's the main guy. He's got a Twitter handle. He's really funny. And so these guys, they manage the Cup, and they carry it around in a big case. They wear white gloves. And one of the things we didn't realize, To win the cup is really, really expensive. And I'll tell you why. To do what Boston did, to go the full 7 games and get that 7th game at home and have that revenue, but lose, that's the best. I mean, you don't want to lose, don't get me wrong, but to have the cup is very expensive because you've got to pay for those 3 guys that travel around the world. You got to pay for them to take it to Russia, Sweden, and you got to pay for all their travel. And so there's a lot of costs that go into winning the cup. Not to mention, all the Stanley Cup rings that you buy for your staff. Don't get me wrong. Every owner would do it, but the cup was gone for 60 days. And so part 3 of this series were really great footage of behind the scenes parties from Petro's house in Toronto and, Bozak. These parties were around the world, and it's really neat to see. Some people took their cup to the gravesite. If their mother or father were buried, they might have taken it to their home rink. Our head coach, Chief Craig Berube, took it to his hometown, took it to the local rink where he grew up. And to see people from these hometowns sobbing around the cup, it's magical. So that was part 3. Part 4 was the ring ceremony the night we got our rings, which was a really nice black tie event, and then the raising of the banner. So I mentioned Hometown Heroes. The second thing we did was this 4-part series, 4 Sundays in a row, which unbelievable impressions with YouTube. And that was really good content to share with our fan base. The last big thing we did, which was really fun, is we won the cup on June 12th of 2019. So 1 year later, this year, June 12th was on a Friday. So we partnered with Fox Sports Midwest and we re-aired the game. But that's easy. Anyone can do that. But we took it a step further. We had our production guys get in touch with probably 6 or 8 players, a few coaches, our team owner, and we did some really cool behind the scenes commentary, which was pre-recorded, but it was aired during the game. So guys like Braden Shen and Petro talking about what that day was like. Now, mind you guys, we were up 3-2. We won game 5 in Boston on a Thursday. We come home for game 6 on a Sunday. Our city's about to explode. And we had over 70,000 people in our streets watching the game on a video board outside of the arena because we just assumed we'd win and celebrate that night. Well, we lost badly, like 5-2, 5-3. So we get on a plane and go back to Boston for game 7, which was a tough challenge, but actually, I think we were 11-3 in the playoffs on the road. We were a great road team, so it was very fitting how we won. But you guys will appreciate the fact that we won game 2, game 5, and game 7 in Boston. And hockey players, well, really any sport, you get very superstitious. You get a routine and a rhythm. So all the guys were going to the same restaurants. They were wearing the same suit. They got in this rhythm and this routine. So when you watch game 7, guys talked about what that day was like, where they had lunch, their pregame nap, what time they got up, their coffee, everything they did. And then, watching the game and having them break down the game. We had a late goal in the first to go up 2-0. Marchand made a terrible late change, and Schwartz drops a pass to Petro. We go up 2-0, and that was like kind of a dagger to go up 2-0 because Boston had really dominated that period, and Binnington had stood on his head. But to get that feedback during the game was really cool with the players. But we took it a step further. So you could be at home watching game 7, getting that great feedback. But we also rented out a really cool drive-in movie theater. As you guys well know, probably in Chicago as well, in St. Louis, a lot of graduations went to drive-in movie theaters. And so we rented out a drive-in movie theater. We sold out 500 spaces. We put some corporate partners behind that. And so people got to go and do a socially distanced drive-in watch party of game 7 1 year later. So people really love that. So I guess those were the 3 things I'd like to touch upon was the Hometown Heroes, the Director's Cut 4-part series on YouTube, and then the game 7 re-air and drive-in theater thing. So those are 3 things we did to kind of stay relevant.
How's Layla Anderson doing?
Layla is doing much, much better. For those of you that don't know, Layla was a young girl about 11 or 12 that had a very rare form of cancer. And our players are really active in the community. And two of our players, Alex Steen and Colton Pareko in particular, they became very close to Layla the previous season. And she stayed engaged with our team, and she would come to games. And they took her on a road trip, I want to say maybe in January or February, right after we kind of flipped the switch. We were in last place in January, then we got on this run. And so Layla became really inspirational and important to our club and came to all the Stanley Cup games. She flew out with us on Game 7. She sat in our suite for Game 7. So Layla and her mom were a big part of our team and our rally, to the point where you can't see it, but we gave Layla a ring, a Stanley Cup ring, the one I showed you guys earlier. And inside everyone's ring, Layla's name is inside everyone's ring. That's how inspirational Layla was to the Blues that season. But Layla's doing much, much better. Her hair's come back. She's healthy and still actively engaged with us.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Eric, for all the insight into a lot of the things behind the scenes that many of us don't really realize about professional sports, and Darren the same as well. I did want to ask Eric, while you're still on the floor, if you will, you're a bit of a unique person for Lake Forest Academy. I think you're probably the only person that has a Super Bowl ring and a Stanley Cup ring. First of all, did you ever feel that you would get a second ring quite like that in a very different sport from football? And then second of all, kind of what was it like to experience that Game 7 and to win in Boston? Can you kind of describe what it was like for you personally?
Yeah, so I would tell you a lot of it's luck. And I would tell you the Blues ring is probably a lot more meaningful. I joined the Rams in late 98. And in 99, Dick Vermeil was our coach. They almost fired him. And then that next season, some of you are too young on here to know this, but us older folks, we had a very active free agency. We got Trent Green, we got Marshall Faulk, and we were really primed and ready to have a decent season. But Trent Green tore his knee in the last preseason game, and out of nowhere comes Kurt Warner. So that Greatest Show on Turf was really fascinating. And actually, for all of you that watched the Michael Jordan special on ESPN, I was living in Chicago for about 10 of those years. They talk about the Bulls being sort of like the Beatles and literally rock stars for those 6 titles. I will tell you the Rams and the Greatest Show on Turf from about 99 to 04, it was really similar being part of that organization, just going on road trips with Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Orlando Pace, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. Like, we had this unbelievable team. It's disappointing we only won 1 ring. We lost the second Super Bowl to the Patriots, but the Blues one means a lot more because I was like 29 years old. It was my second season at the Rams. And like I mentioned earlier, it was 3 games and all of a sudden, boom, you win. But for me, being with the Blues for 14 years and going through 2 different ownership changes and taking a club that was a great traditional club, we had fallen on hard times in 06, 07, and to really slowly rebuild that brand, both in the community, rebuild the business, rebuild the hockey side. It was really, really meaningful. And not only, it was a 52-year drought. We hadn't ever won a cup. So going into Game 7, lots of emotions. But I remember telling my wife before we got on the plane that day that I said, there's just something about me that feels at peace and feels calm, like we're supposed to do this on the road. And no offense to any of you on this call if you're from Boston, but there's really only 2 cities that I would say in my 21 years in pro sports going to road games, the 2 cities that are the most harsh fans and really get in your face. It's Philly when the Rams used to play the Eagles, and it's Boston. The Boston fans were absolutely brutal. There was probably a lot of great fans, but the ones we sat next to were not so great. And so to do it on their ice and to do it the way we did it actually was probably a little sweeter. And, we're up 2-0. There's no scoring in the second, which was probably our best period. And then the third, Tarasenko beats Chara to a puck in the corner, does a no-look pass to Shen, who buries it. I mean, and then our fourth goal was a kid who was born and raised in Boston. Zach Sanford was born and raised in Boston, played at Boston College. His dad had died the previous fall. His dad was a diehard Bruins fan, and Zach scores in the Garden. He scored our 4th goal to win. So really, with about 4 minutes left, you knew the game was over. And just to be down there on the ice with the guys and celebrate, like, it was fairly surreal. And even though I didn't score a goal, I didn't play 1 second of the ice, you still feel a part of it. And this is no knock on my football friends or basketball or baseball. There's just something really special about hockey players. I didn't play hockey at LFA. I can't skate at all still to this day. I played football, basketball, baseball, but hockey players really appreciate what the business side does. They really love their sport. They love their corporate partners. They really make you feel like part of the family. So for those guys to like share the cup on the ice and get pictures with Tarasenko and Maroon and all, like, there's something really special about hockey players. And so I would say the Blues one means a lot more to me emotionally. They're both fantastic. I'm really lucky. I've got other friends in the business that have won multiple rings, but yeah, just really blessed, really lucky, and really, really love what I do.
Thanks, Eric. And speaking of hockey, Darren, can you give us a little bit of an update as to how LFA could potentially play a hockey season, both the women and the men's teams? Does that look like it's a possibility? And would the teams be able to travel as much as they do, particularly on the prep side?
We've got most of the stuff in place. We were actually supposed to be in Sioux, Michigan. We were supposed to play at 4:00 today. I didn't feel comfortable yet that taking my team, even though Sault Ste. Marie has 2 cases in the entire area, it was more of taking my team there, coming back, and making sure the community was safe. And so Tuesday I decided, you know what, let's give a little bit more time here. But we are really close to feeling comfortable about going on the road. And so I do fully believe that's going to happen, and going to happen at least 2 or 3 times before we go for break. And then when we come back, I think we'll be in a much better spot. And the hockey season this year, because the fall was moved to the spring, I've got till May to get games in. So it allows those guys a lot more opportunity to get noticed. And then same with the girls' side. We decided this year we weren't going to play in the league. Just with the uncertainty, we have so many girls from different countries that come into play, and not knowing if they were going to be able to get here, and didn't want to take that experience away from them as well. So we became independent for a year with the league's blessing. And so we're looking at different things we can do right now. And actually, Illinois Hockey just wrote a great article about our girls hockey team. It was released on Friday. Spoke about Angie Cotton and Jesse Yang. So it was great to see, and I've had a lot of people reach out from it. But we're close. We're very close.
Thanks, Darren. I have a question from an alumnus. This one is directed to Eric Stisser. Eric, having worked in football and now hockey, can you comment and talk about the contrast between the popularity growth in football and hockey? So the kind of the compare and contrast the football and hockey popularity growth.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, the NFL is far and away the Premier League as far as revenue goes. You know, they just have this model with built-in, you know, destination TV, 1 game a week. So that's a unique model. And from what I do with corporate partners and sponsors, while 8 home games is great, and it's probably much easier on family life, it really, each game felt more like an event. But when I first got to hockey, I'm like, oh my gosh, 40 games, 40 home games, what's this going to be like? But I actually think 40 is a good number. I think baseball would be hard. I think it'd be hard to have 81 home games. But, you know, a lot of guys in my role, they do move around. There's a lot of, it's no different than coaching. So whether you're working for the Cardinals or the Blues or the Bears or the Hawks or the Bulls, at the end of the day, what we do is we're selling entertainment, we're selling tickets and sponsorships and suites. So really the end sale is really pretty similar. It's just a different sport, different number of games. I would tell you that, the NFL has far and away one of the largest salary caps in the league. Their television rights deals are astronomical. But I would say some of the differences would be hockey. Football's a really easy game to watch. Hockey really struggled translating to TV until we got HD. Now that we have HD, I think hockey is much better on TV. But hockey is still the sport that, we talk about it. If the Smith family of four goes to a hockey game for the first time to watch the Blues, we feel that those kids are going to want to go back. If you watch a live hockey game, the nonstop action, the fast pace, the physicality, the finesse, the speed, there's really nothing like it. Something that football really has to combat is the home experience is fantastic. I could watch the red zone on Sunday and zip around. I'm like, there's not really much. I mean, now you can't go, but generally speaking, I think a lot of fans don't want to go watch live football anymore because it's a chore, it's expensive, and the home product is really, really good. But from a revenue standpoint, the NFL obviously has higher revenues. But interestingly enough, the NHL, the lower bowl, the way sports has changed a lot over the years is really with business intelligence and data and analytics, really getting to know your consumers, who's sitting in your seats, what do they do, what's their joint income, and really, believe it or not, in hockey, the lower level of hockey, which is termed kind of the white collar, is the most expensive ticket in all sports, and it's probably the most tech savvy. So, I think a lot of people feel like hockey was really a blue collar sport over the years. We feel like the upper bowl or the jersey wearers, they're kind of more blue collar, but the lower bowl is really more white collar corporate. And I don't mean corporate like, hey, they're just corporations that have seats and don't go, because most hockey people, like you'll see it with the Hawks, they still sell out. Like they're passionate, they love going, and they don't let their seats go to waste. So I would say hockey's certainly a little bit more passionate than the average NFL fan. But the NFL base is certainly much bigger.
Thanks, Eric. We're right at the end of our session here, but I want to pose one final question to Darren in light of that last question about growth and popularity of sports. Darren, are there any particular sports at LFA that you're seeing a much greater interest in over the last, say, 5 years during your time? What are today's high school kids itching to play, if you will?
Well, it's interesting because it's changing, but soccer is just exploding still. We're at 3 teams. Basketball, same thing, 3 teams. I think when you look at both of those sports, the equipment costs next to nothing compared to hockey, football, lacrosse, and the injury rates are a lot lower in those sports. So I think those have taken off. This year we had 28 kids come out for golf, which is double from our normal. And then girls lacrosse as well seems to be a sport in the North Shore that just, I've got 80 outside right now on 4 different fields. And so I just think those are ones that are just taking off. And some of it is, college driven. This could help me get a little bit of a leverage over another student to get into that school that I've always wanted. So I think that's the ones you've seen in hockey. I think we're at 70 between the boys and girls right now. So that one's kind of held strong.
Just to piggyback on that for a quick second, obviously when you have success, similar to the Hawks did, from 2010 to 16, you really see youth hockey grow tremendously. And St. Louis is a good youth hockey market, probably not as traditionally strong as Chicago, but St. Louis is a funny town where, you know, we've got over 50 Blues alums that still live here because it's a mid-sized city. It's really affordable. It's an easy place to live. So athletes stay here. So a lot of our alums have stayed here. And because of that, our youth hockey has gone through the roof. We had 5 St. Louis kids drafted in the first round like 4 years ago, which was unheard of. But our largest growing segment, it helps that we just won a cup, but our largest growing segment in youth hockey is girls age 5 to 8. Girls youth hockey in St. Louis is exploding. And so that's really neat for us to see. And the NHL has a pretty cool growth initiative fund, and they give money to a lot of different markets that are really trying to grow the game. And as Darren alluded to, we make it really, really affordable. We will provide the equipment. We partner with local equipment manufacturers. And so we don't turn anyone away. If someone wants to play, you know, we'll get you the equipment. We'll find you the ice time. We just built a brand new $80 million practice facility, the Centene Community Ice Center, with 4 sheets of ice. It's our home practice rink. It's also where Lindenwood University plays, but it's great for our youth hockey growth as well.
And St. Louis it's been amazing, even during my tenure there. Although I played the first 4 years in an awful building, the Checker Dome. But anybody you talk to that played for the Blues, I've never heard a bad experience. And we'll go play the St. Louis Blues midget team and Car Shield and a bunch of those. And it's amazing how many of those are coached by guys that I played against, or guys that played just before me. So the Al McInneses and guys that just do not leave town, they love it.
Well,
Eric,
we have come to the end of our time here. I think, Jose, were you trying to say something?
I was going to say, Eric, with all those awesome girl hockey players down in St. Louis, I think you should let them know the value of a Lake Forest Academy education.
Way to go, Jose.
And the girls hockey coach is a pretty good kid.
I will, for sure.
Thank you, Eric. You're looking out.
Let me pause this now because we are over time, but to say thank you to Eric and Darren for sharing a little bit of behind the scenes. I went to see my first hockey game as an 11-year-old when the American Hockey League came into Binghamton, New York, my hometown, and have been a lifelong hockey fan. So today was a real treat for me, but I also know that I speak on behalf of everyone. Eric and Darren, thank you for all your insights and for a wonderful hour's worth of chock full of great stories. Hope to see you all again at 3 o'clock when we begin our final session of Alumni Weekend. Thank you.